Hello and welcome to the Assetto Corsa Competizione Sim Series. And this is our round 3 coming at you from Brands Hatch in sunny old England. I'm joined today by not our regular commentator Stefan Bunatix, but by our old regular commentator Julian Strasser. Hello Julian, how are you?
Hello Gareth, thank you very much, I'm fine.
Excellent. And quick shout out to everyone who's been putting in all those bits and subs at the start of the stream. Huge shouts to you before we get going. We've got a hype train. It's a thing. It doesn't do much, but it covers up half my chat and annoys me slightly. So thank you for doing that. We're going to start talking about the event we have at hand. Brands Hatch. What do you think of this track, Julian?
Brands Hatch is a lovely track. It's one of my favorite tracks actually in this calendar. It's for sure my favorite track this season because it's got basically everything. It's got a few straights, it's got some challenging corners of varying angles, varying radii. Yeah, that's the word.
Yep, that is a word.
It's a beautiful track all around, and today we're really in sunny England, which is, well, hats off.
Entirely normal. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you think of it as a race circuit? Because I think it is a fantastic circuit in general. It's a bit of a, it's a better circuit for slower cars, as it were. I think GT3s are about the limit of what can sort of successfully race around here. It's going to be a tricky track to overtake on because there's a lot of sort of quite fast flowing corners. The biggest opportunity is really going to be into that tricky downhill turn 1.
Yeah, downhill turn 1, if everyone's spotting their braking marker correctly, that is going to be one of the key factors around today, but also watching into T2 into Druids, that you don't get cut on the inside, because if the person behind you is going to get a good run, that is basically the best overtaking opportunity you can get.
Yes, absolutely. Druids is a very fun corner. Personally, I really enjoy it. There's a few more tricky corners on the track, but a quick shout out before we move into talking about any of the actual drivers we have, which should be our next topic. We have started testing something for continuous use throughout the season. The exclamation mark timings, which should just have come up on your screen, is now working. I've had it running this whole time and it hasn't actually done anything since SEC, but we have a new exclamation mark timings, which I will put in the chat, which will bring you to our pitwall.live channel, which I checked earlier, and it is working. It's up there, and here you can get live timings straight from the server. And yeah, so if you want to keep up with someone who's not on screen the entire time, you can do that. So head over there if you got like a second monitor or something that you want to throw that on. It is a nice addition to the broadcast. So we are back with the AM split, who are hopefully going to next season be called the Bronze split. Julian, if you wouldn't mind going through a couple of names in here and chatting about who you're interested in seeing while I try and fix some technical issues.
Well, there's definitely some interesting names. Thanks for that segue. Especially there's a title bout basically happening in the pro split of this. Let us call it bronze split.
Yeah.
In the pro sector, because there's 66 points on both Ollie Moss and Paul Krampf, both British fighters, on here on their home track, looking to further consolidate their lead and looking to further consolidate being advanced into the silver split next season. Of course, we also got the newcomer of Pavel Aronowitz, who came in one weekend later, and who is looking to crash the party, basically, as both a Polish and a Brit. He's also on half home turf here. So it's going to be interesting watching these three challenging each other on the track for the title bout.
Absolutely. Pavel has obviously did very well in the last time. He's helping organize a lot this season, so it's good to see him in the server. We also have, of course, Dan Terry, our big boss man as it stands right now, who is in the server. He hasn't had the greatest start, but he's done a lot of driving on Brands Hatch, been hopping into a lot of the evaluation servers to help fill those out with drivers as we're testing new blood to the series. And so he's hoping to have a good event this week, as he's done a lot of driving here. The first time we've had Brands Hatch in our series, and it's going to be interesting to see how many of our drivers have a similar experience to Dan, where, you know, especially a lot of newcomers wanting to do well in their first series have done a lot of practice to try and get a good evaluation. And so hopefully that extra time can help them here.
Yeah, sure. A lot of extra time to prepare is needed, especially on here, where one of the most important factors will be the qualifying, of course, and then keeping it together during the race, being able to not get under pressure, to not make any mistakes. But yeah, knowing the track to get a good qualifying lap is going to be the first challenge that we're going to see soon in the qualifying.
Absolutely. Just a minute and a bit until we hop into qualifying again. Watching some people drive around. We've already seen, as Julian said, it's very important to try and manage consistent laps without making any mistakes around here. And we have already seen a couple of mistakes being made in the practice with some hilarious consequences in terms of ACC crash physics. There are a couple of corners, like the one, I don't know how to describe it properly, but it's the one that goes left where the Indy circuit would go right, which I see a lot of sort of newer drivers, which obviously are in the lowest split here, tiers 5 and 6. We're going to see a lot of them. Can get a bit heavy on the loud pedal there, as well as the penultimate corner, the sharp left-hander heading towards the right corner. Both easy places where they can make some big mistakes.
Yeah, both the left-handers. The first one, just in case it says something, it's 30s. The second one would be Sterling's, then the left-hander. Just in case anyone knows now what we're talking about. But yeah, this is going to be hard to manage, especially the tires there, because the tires are going to be mostly cold on the right side, and they're suddenly getting a lot of challenge through these corners. Managing that will be key factor to not making any mistakes tonight.
Absolutely, as we get everyone's favourite Canberg in the chat. Just normally wouldn't do this on stream, but just for him. There we go. Lovely. I hope everyone is supplied with their drinks and snacks and ready to chill down for 2 races that we will be doing as we prepare to watch the... there we go. As we prepare to watch the lowest split, the bottom 2 tiers of our championship. Let's hop into game as I remember to set up my stream deck, which I haven't had on. And have a look at the times for practice as we end our session. Paul Krampf is in the lead so far with a 1:25.3. Quite a decent way ahead of anyone else. A couple of our continual favourites up near the top, like Daniel Durat. Our top 7 drivers all under 1:26.
Yeah, it's beautiful seeing them getting such good times already in the practice session, but it's still only is it a fast track? I believe so.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, also interesting to say again that we once again have a situation where neither of our top 2 drivers have the fastest times in each sector. They all had all the fastest sectors are in like 3, 4, and 5's hands, which sort of is something we've seen a lot more this season, and I think it does come down to just how incredibly consistent our situation is overall with all these drivers. As I try and find who's in first, Roy Bottomley is going to be our driver who goes around to set the first lap. I hope the game sound is good for all of you.
In case you didn't hear it, by the way, I also opened up a bottle, not a can.
Yeah, it was there. It was a little bit quiet, but it was pretty good. Game sound is low. I'm going to turn it up. Can't turn it up too much more without some effort, but it's there. Hopefully it's not too bad. Just turn it up. Have more control over. There we go.
Roy Bottomley on here is a driver we've not seen much so far about. He has been within the points, but still pretty far back. He's managed to get a good qualifying position here, though, in case nobody gets in front of him.
Absolutely. So he's going to go in for his first flying lap, and we are going to sit on board with him and watch how this progresses. Starting off on the straight, obviously not a huge long straight, as there isn't that much room here at Brands Hatch. Into this first corner, you sort of have to dive in. It's quite a fast corner. A lot of people say it's a difficult braking point to find. And obviously going wide there can be an issue. Coming into the second corner, which is obviously the Druid's hairpin. Incredibly tight, pretty standard hairpin into this fast left-hander. which is surprisingly fast. You do have to go out onto the grass like that. Just check our basic card to see if he's cut. He has not. It's good to see. It's very easy to get slightly too far on the grass there and get a track extension warning as he heads up left through Surtees, down through the dip to the backside, the GP part of the circuit. This is an incredibly fast corner. You brake sort of quite late and stay at quite a high speed. Got to try and accelerate as early as possible to carry speed through the last part of here into this corner. That can be a part where you see some overtaking lunges, not normally successful, but if one person doesn't carry enough speed, it can also happen. This part of the circuit then gets a little bit tricky because it's so flowing. It's just corner after corner after corner after corner. It really is impossible to set up a move on anyone, but you can really cling onto the back of someone heading towards the end of the lap. And if you get a good run through this final corner, you are on the straight back down to dive into the first corner again and try not to oversteer into that gravel. Bottomley sets the first lap as a 1:27.8, so scruffy lap as we saw, and we will definitely see improvements on this as the day goes on.
Yeah, and as you mentioned it there, in the last sector of the track, you cannot really overtake. You need to be on the back of the car in front. You need to be in the slipstream and really get all of the speed you can out of every corner, because it is only about making mistakes. The track is not very wide. Only on the start-finish straight it is a bit wider than on the rest, so just cutting in front of someone doesn't go like that.
Absolutely, and as we see a couple more drivers setting times, dipping us down to the low 1:26s. We should point out for anyone new to our series that as of now we are operating with two splits, or two classes per splits, the AMs and the Pros. The AMs here in red have the first 15 minutes of the qualification to set their times, with the Pros in white having the last set their time. We will also see, as we've got far enough in our championship to have some of these issues, a couple of our drivers not setting times, and that will be on purpose because they have picked up enough behavior warning points in order to get a qualification ban.
Yes, I believe it is 6 drivers tonight that have to serve this penalty, which stands to show what has been going on in the last 2 weeks actually, of the ARM splits.
Yep, for sure. This we've had a bit of a meme through the first 2 seasons of our event that Friday is the clean split, but that has definitely not been true this season. We've had a lot of incidents, some big first lap crashes, and a couple of races that were just not clean throughout the entirety of them. So we see Alexis there drifting in the back. That was pretty incredible drift. That was Jakob Suresen, I believe, there going for a bit of a drift as we watch the big orange Bentley of Kalpesh Chowdhury. Barely fits on the track, this thing. Fantastic.
Barely fits, and Kalpesh Chowdhury, he's won in the title bout for the AM split. He's only 2 points behind Tom Tweedy in second place, sitting with 58 points. He is really looking to get into the lead today to get a good position for the next race, for the last race of the season.
Absolutely, a shortened season this time to try to avoid clashing with anyone's Christmas plans, although we will have the 10 days of Christmas events coming up afterwards, which we will be doing some shout outs and hyping for at the end of this stream. David Long, that's the first time, just the second time above 125, or over 125. I didn't realize that Chowdhury had got a 125.9, but 125.449 for David Long in the fan favorite Pringles Ferrari that everyone loves. Tom Tweedy, also an interesting person to talk about. As Julian said, he is in the title fight right now. He's been doing very well overall in the fantastic Freezer livery, and as we see him leave the pits, He has not had such a great time so far. We saw him earlier spinning, and he is down in 6th place right now in the Aston on Brands. So we're going to have to see if he can improve that over the rest of the session. 7 minutes left as Tweedy does something which I think I have done almost every time I drive Brands, which is cold tyres at exactly that point after coming out from Druids. You just get on the gas a little bit too early and have a bit of a wiggle.
That is a classic loud pedal. If you're a bit too much on the acceleration here on cold tires, it's going to be very hard on you. Luckily, he managed to save it, didn't bin it into the wall. And yes, he's definitely going to look for improving his time further. I want to quickly shout out that there's a good split of cars, actually. We've got a Ferrari in the lead in front of a Bentley, Lexus, Ferrari, then a McLaren, Porsche, Nissan, Aston. It's a good split, and it's very split up in between the different manufacturers, which is nice to see always.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a great split of cars in all of our different splits this season. It's been fantastic to see. The new BOP clearly working well. We no longer have the AMs all in Astons and McLarens and the Pros all in Porsches. So it's very nice to see. And Lexi, of course.
Is Lexi really the multiple of Lexus?
It is for us. It's not in real life, but as far as we're concerned, Lexi is correct.
Lovely, lovely.
The correct plural of Lexus, if anyone is interested, is Lexus. You know, it's cool, but it's not quite as interesting as Lexi. It's correct, at least. I always get annoyed at people who... it was more of a bit of an old thing, but a lot of commentators still call the two Williams cars Williamses. And I despise that. Sounds awful. They should be the two Williams cars.
Yeah,
one Williams, two Williams.
Alright, let's not get into grammatical sense here. We've got a race to watch, we've got a qualifying to watch, and David Long is still in the lead, is out again on the track in front of Kalpesh Chowdhury right now. The times have not changed in the meantime, but Kalpesh Chowdhury is currently up on his time. Looking really good as he's going onto the back straight. 3/10 ahead of his time.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Tom Tweedy didn't manage to improve on his time that race. He was stuck behind a Ferrari for quite a lot of it, as we see Chowdhury going a bit wide there. Get back on the tarmac and hasn't lost too much time. He's also still he still hasn't ruined his time yet, so still has a chance to go faster. When as he gets to the last corner, it's more than a chance, isn't it?
It's looking very well for Chowdhury to get into pole position, provisional pole position here. 7/10 ahead, and he does it. Lovely, 25.19. There's a very good time, I think, for the split here, and a hard one to beat, especially for Tom Tweedy.
Absolutely, as we're seeing a lot of people up on their times right now. Ray Birch going to jump across and up into third. I can't quite see what the number of the next car coming across is. That's 54. David Wirch, he's not up on his time, unfortunately. The next car to come across the line, who has a big lead right now, up in the top guys at least, is Jakob Suresen, who is coming through our Lexus driver in the bottom split right now. What a lovely sound, the Lexus. Honestly, I've never driven the Lexus, but it's got a chunky little sound. I quite like it. This is, I think, the first time I've really listened to it. Oh, that's not the way to go, Mercedes.
But Jakob Suresen has a very good improvement on his time, putting it into provisional P3, just a few thousandth behind David Long.
Absolutely, and we just saw Tom Tweedy there taking a trip across the grass. Unfortunately, as he was up on his time Then he's going to have to try and swing round and go again. He should have just enough time to get in another one, as we see this fantastic Nissan skin on David Wirch, which unfortunately you probably can't see the skins. But if you if you have the stream ready, you'll be able to see that this is a fantastic livery. And if not, just trust me.
No, I have them downloaded. It's really looking well.
Big fan of this. It's a bit of a Petronas-looking Nissan livery as he comes across the line. A 4 attempts improvement as it's going so far could jump him up into 7th position, and it does. Fantastic work from David Wirch.
It's a fantastic start, definitely, but he can still improve on that. He still has 2 laps time to do so. Not looking all too fancy right now, but let's see who is up then. Peter Hook.
Peter Hook in a nice looking McLaren livery. Not my favourite set of colours, honestly, but it looks like a real racing livery, which always is a plus in my books for custom liveries.
Yes, and with I think that's the Australian flag on the front.
I am not confident enough to say whether it is Australian or New Zealand, but it's one of the two.
Okay, with the Oceanian flag on the front.
Yeah. One of those lovely countries' flags. And he hops up to 2nd as well, so a really big improvement by him. I wasn't checking on his delta in the last 2 corners, but that's a good one, and he's clearly happy with that because he's immediately going to hop out. Tom Tweedy is up on his time by a whole 2nd and a 10th. So we're gonna see this come through. The last time he's dropped all the way down to 10th by not getting an improvement since his first lap. But he might be able to come in clutch right at the end here, very slowly creeping up the last 2 corners. Pretty hard to get any time improvements through there. And he leaps up to 5th position, so, you know, maybe not the sort of place someone in the championship hunt would like to be in, but much better than he was doing. A 1:25.6 is not a bad time for the amateurs. And so as they come towards the end of their qualifying,
I don't know why he didn't continue there. He could have started the lap because it was started before 15 minutes.
Yep, could have. Maybe it feels like that's the best he's going to be able to do right now. So we watch David Long, who's 3rd position. That Dan Terry right behind him, it is, and Dan Terry, as always with this lad, has leaped out of the pits as fast as possible, setting his outlap here right behind the last of the AMs in his lovely Petronas liveried Aston Martin.
I just wanted to say that David Long seemed to be on dangerous grounds for not returning to the pits, but he did in the meantime. Great to see. Apparently, it seems that everyone of the AMs is back in the pits right now. Everyone understood the message as the pros are coming out to play.
Absolutely. My timing is trying to confuse me, but I will not let it do so. So we're going to sit on board with Dan Terry as we watch him set up and complete the first flying lap of the pros in his V8 powered Aston Martin as he come around the last corner. Trying to get as much of a run as possible into the first corner. Not a corner where you can gain a huge amount of time in the last one, but nice late braking for this corner. Doesn't want to make any stupid mistakes in his first lap. Got to be careful on the throttle as you obviously lose all of the weight of your car going down that hill. Diving into the first hairpin, making it nice and sharp so we can get on the power reasonably early. Brake just here, duck down, and use a lot of the curb on exit. Cut round here as we see the bollard stopping you from going on the Indy layout. and down the longest straight on the track, which quite rarely for a track, although we actually have a few of the tracks that do this in ACC, isn't the start-finish straight. Often get that.
Yeah, famously Mount Panorama, I would say, where the start-finish straight is actually very short.
Mount Panorama, Spa, Paul Ricard and Brands are the ones that leap to my head, and Abu Dhabi, which obviously the F1 will be going to. I forgot to mention, but for those of you who noticed somewhere in my Kimi Raikkonen hat at the beginning of the broadcast, that's to celebrate the fact that his engine exploded, which, you know, isn't a good thing, but it did bring me back to his glory days in the McLaren, so, you know, I'm sure he's very used to the fire extinguisher.
As Dan Terry comes across the line and sets actually a very nice time, immediately putting him up there above almost all of the amps.
Yep, we've normally seen it take a few laps for the pros in our splits to really catch up with the AMs. We do have two classes, but the classes are very, very close together. And so as you can see, a lot of these pro drivers are falling behind most of the AMs for their sort of, you know, their banker laps, as it were, setting those safe laps early on. It's quite rare to see one jump right to the top of the order, but very quick and out there for Dan Terry. All of those times practicing in the evaluation service seems to have really paid off for him.
Yeah, I have to say, if that is his banker lap, then I'm scared to see what might happen in his actual lap.
Who we have up on times so far. A lot of people have set their times, so yeah, not many failed laps, not too much worry with those tracks getting cancelled due to cuts. Means that we don't get to see their delta against the top times, but a lot of people pushing the limits there again a little bit on the grass. We see there from Laszlo Nemeth in the McLaren. Gonna come through with a great improvement to his time, although his time is reasonably slow. This is actually going to put him right to the top if he can hold this, and through the last corner, gaining the whole way down. This is going to put him right up to the front. 8th position. Oh, doesn't quite make it past the 26 barrier, but very close to that. I may have forgotten my maths and overhyped his lap, because I thought the fastest time was a 26 one, but it's a 25 one.
I was about to say you're about a second off there, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter right now. They're still trying to get in banker laps, trying to improve gradually, and getting in their best laps at the very last second. Or if they're not trying to, they're at least doing it.
Yes, exactly. We do have Haller, Strom, and Grundhofer. Grundhofer and Haller, obviously people we've seen being very fast throughout this. So not surprised to see him out there. Pavel Aronovich in the marvelous Nissan GTR. Big fan of the Nissan GTR. I only discovered it recently, but having a great amount of fun diving around in that thing. And obviously a fantastic livery representing the greatest sim racing team.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Don't ask me in the chat. Don't ask me to tell you what sim racing team, because I can't remember all of the name.
But if we go back to the top, Dan Terry is now overtaking everyone with his third lap, I believe. Gone into first position, and Laszlo Nemeth has been able to get into overall third right now.
And Dan Terry is also still up on his time on this lap. He's only halfway around the course, but the old boy's still got some time in him left, so we could see him doing an even better time. Dan Terry, not someone who's normally good at qualifying. He's the sort of person who will spend all day in the practice server chipping away at his time and then not be able to set that lap when the pressure comes in qualifying, as he comes around for a slight improvement, but still right at the front of the pack, a slight improvement means quite a lot.
Yeah, but his last corner looked
Yeah.
very loose there, back end very loose, which led him to lose 1.5 tenths of time there.
So he could have been incredibly close to a 124. He was right on the limit of that before throwing it away, as we see Burnswood, Nathan Burnswood, not a name that I recognise, coming through in this Ferrari. Going to set a pretty decent time himself, up to second position with an exactly comparable time to Dan Terry.
Now, Nathan Burnswood is a impressive, first of all, that he got exactly the same time, and he's for the first time in the championship this weekend.
Lovely. Always good to see that plus 0.000. It's good fun. Let's see if we can match Formula One's record by getting a third one, shall we? That would be fun.
Why settle with match? Why not improve?
Because then we don't break the... or match the record, dude. Come on. Although obviously seeing someone break 124 would also be fun.
That would be very fun. And you know who's going to fight for that? Keith Griffel. He's currently really up on his time, looking lovely through the fast right-hander there. 4 tenths up on his time. If he can manage to save a bit more in the last sector, he'll be right up there with the best of the rest.
As you can see, little bit of lost in the corner there, but it's not too far. Mid-corner speeds, not important. As we've seen from the Mercedes traces last week in F1. Weird little glitch there with the timing, but you can see he has slowly crept up his time a little bit more. Nice last corner there, pushing to the edge, but he gets a bit squirrely and loses all the time he was gaining from that nice last corner. Still a good jump up, and he puts himself in 4th position, which is a fantastic effort.
Yeah, Chowdhury just almost untouchable even by the pros. He really put in a good lap in there.
Absolutely strong to point out that Chowdhury still right up there. Peter Hewitt, David Long also keeping a strong time. And even Jakob Suresen and Tom Tweedy for now in the top 10, although obviously only just so.
Now that you mention Jakub Sergen, I've been informed by Viktor Janaba, fellow Czech person, that it's actually pronounced Sergen, meaning hornet in Czech.
Sergen.
Sergen.
Sergen. More like a Z, sort of. Sergen. Kind of?
Yeah, it's going in the right direction, definitely.
Sergen. It sounds like there's a bit of a G in it as well that isn't there, like almost Sergen, but with this Sergen. Get what I mean. Anyway, pronunciation time on this channel over. It's good that it's something that I am vaguely interested in, so that I can be interested when people tell me that I've got their names wrong. So Paul Cramp, we are watching right now, who's just finished the lap, up into 8th, as well as Andrew Hearn up into 10th, have pushed out Tom Tweedy. And a good start to the lap by Paul Cramp, but he's got to try and keep it throughout the lap.
Yeah, Paul Cramp, as I've said before, is currently in the title bout for the pros. But his competitor Ollie Moss, as I see, is not in the server right now. Seems like he's taken a hiatus week, maybe. So that may be the reason why Paul is taking it a bit more relaxed, not going for the top times and not risking it. But as I say that, he's currently on lap for a 124. If he manages to set this last corner correctly, his last few corners, it looks very well for him to get up to the top above everyone else. He's
very close to on pace for it right now. He's going to be first, but will he break the 124? He does only just. Fantastic work by Paul Cramp to just get over the line ahead of everyone else. And once again, we have a leading car without a leading sector.
That just shows that every sector he's good in, but there's none he excels at, which is good for to see the consistency of a driver. But well, it would still be more beautiful to see all those purple sectors light up.
Andrew Hearn here in the McLaren, setting a decent improvement on his lap time. He can keep with this. He's going to actually jump up to about 4th. Really nice comeback from Hearn after not having the greatest start to the qualifying. 6 of our top 10 are our pro drivers, so the pro drivers are overall performing. But the pace very close in Brands Hatch, which, as we said, is something we could expect from how much running we've had here. Oh, and as I'm thinking of starting to chat about other things, it seems like everyone is starting laps with an improvement. Paul Cramp, Dan Terry, Andrew Hearn, Keith Griffel, and Laszlo Nemeth were all on greens. Not all of them have quite held them.
Especially Dan Terry.
About to come across the line with a huge improvement, jumping up to first with a 24.5. Massive lap from Dan.
Who put this man in bronze split?
He did.
Now we know why. No.
Obviously, as you said, a lot of practice on this track. He's been competing in a lot of the evaluation races to try and fill that up, to give people someone to race against when they're trying to join our series. ! Sign-ups in the chat if you are new and would like to join the Discord. So, huge shout out to him as we have Nathan Burnswood starting a lap, Bruce Eris, who's just binned a lap, and Keith Griffel, who's coming over with a 2/10 lead right now. 125.2 so far, so he could just dip into the 124s. He does so on an exact copy of Paul Cramp's lap time. So before Burnswood and Terry were on the exact same lap time, and now Cramp and Griffel are on the exact same lap time. Fantastic to see.
That is beautiful.
Watching Nathan Burnswood now, we're going to sit on board with him as we come through this last part of the lap. He is 2/10 up so far, but I'm slightly hoping that he loses just a little bit in the end of it so he can try and set an exact replica time as well and give us the freeway. But gaining time all the way through the end, catching a little bit of traffic here at the end, but the Aston Martin very nicely gets out of his way there, not to put too much onto his lap time, not wiggly on the last corner as many others have been. Didn't get his foot down quite fast enough to reach Dan Terry, but a 124.885, putting him with a very handy time for his last lap in qualifying.
Beautiful by the newcomer in his Ferrari Evo to be a last-second addition to the provisional podium for the qualifying, at least.
We're sitting on board with our last driver who has the possibility to improve right now. Daniel Groundhoffer, someone who we've seen right at the front of all of these races, is surprisingly low down in the qualifying so far in his Bentley. Going to come across the line with a decent improvement, going to jump him up to 7th position as we come into...
That position, number 7, is severely needed by Daniel Grundhofer because he is currently in P3 of the driver's standings, point standings. He is still looking to be in the title fight against Paul Cramp, but he's in a difficult position right now, as is Pavel Aronowitz, who is starting from 12th only.
Absolutely. Looking at this timing, it's good to see that it took right to the end of the qualifying session, but the pros have shown why they are in pros overall. Only the fantastic lap of Kalpesh Chowdhury and a strong second of Peter Hewitt have managed to keep themselves in the top 10. Dan Terry, your pole sitter for this race, with Nathan Burnswood alongside him on the front row. Nice 2x2 going on here as well. Unfortunately, Ewis couldn't get up to the front and use probably, I see Bruce. He's not managed to make it 2 Astons to the front, but we have 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 2 Bentleys, and then another 2 McLarens just a little bit behind. Satisfying pattern race today.
It's beautiful to see. And so many British cars are in front, on their home track, on their home turf. Just the 2 Ferraris putting in a bit of a wedge there.
That's a good point. I hadn't noticed that. True, all of the foreign cars are stuck down at the bottom. Quick shout out again for something that we are testing today for our broadcast. Exclamation mark timings in the chat puts up the pitwall.live channel, so you can see live timings. You can watch how people are doing sector by sector, see the gap between them live. This should all work absolutely fine.
You can also watch the stream on there, but you cannot be in the chat as well on the pitwall.live app.
What I have heard, yeah. You can actually see a load of live races that are using this as well, and we have our logo in there, nicely sorted out by obviously our big man Dan Terry, who set this up. SRO are on Suzuka right now, the pit crew are on Spa, and we are here on Brands Hatch.
With a lovely lime green design. I just love the design of pitwall.live. It's looking very lovely.
Looks fancy. Yeah. I too am a big fan of it. For those of you who are new, who've just come in here to see an Assetto Corsa Competizione stream, we are the Assetto Corsa Sim Series. We are a rookie league for rookie and mid-pack drivers, set up in order to give people their first experience of proper, realistic racing. Get you out of those open lobbies and get you into some serious racing. We have live stewarding today and every day that we do our main championship races and our endurance races. We have the lower 2 tiers, who are each in the same split together, racing today, and tomorrow we will have Lars Kastrup and Paul Glover bringing you their stream of the middle split, and the top split on Sunday will be brought to you by Dan Terry and myself. Along with, this week, myself and Stefan Bunatix bringing you the Solo Endurance Championship Round 2 from Silverstone, which will be starting from sort of midday on Sunday before we get to Pro Split. So to do our traditional grid walk, and you'll be very proud of me, Julian, since you haven't been doing this for a while, you won't know this, but I mean, you've been watching the stream, you will know, but I just want to shout out again that I have remembered the hotkeys finally. I no longer need to ask chat. And we start with
beautiful.
An entirely new front row, 2 drivers who we've never seen on the front row in one of our series. Daniel Terry, the big boss man, ahead of Nathan Burnswood in this Ferrari. 2 very good liveries on the front as well, very happy about that. We get to 2 in-game custom liveries next of Krampf and Griffel. Ferrari and McLaren on the second row. Hearn and Chowdhury following up in the Bentleys. Slightly upset that these nice 2x2s that we have are just not quite like row by row. That would have been fun. Grandhofer, surprised to see him so low next to Bruce Use on the other side. Nemeth and Hewitt then in 2 McLarens, nice side by side. Long and Aronovich, 2 crowd favourites in some crowd favourite liveries here with Pringles and this. Moving on, we then have Walker and Surson, who I'm going to have to look up that pronunciation again because I've already forgotten it. And then Tweedy, another person who we normally see farther in the fantastic Fraser livery next to Strom. Birch and Haller following up with Nickel and Fernandez. A lot of people picking the black Lexus livery, which is very good to see. Adam and Wirch next up with another 2 fantastic liveries. Whaley and Allen I haven't seen this livery. It's a nice livery. Got a Grinch livery. Fantastic. Shout out to the Grinch livery. Herzit and Chardonnay's next. Dr. Borger. I'm just going to stick with Dr. Borger and Turner next. Jurek and Van der Heck. Smeets and Wanzek. More names that I recognise and can get out easily. Bottomley and Hopkins. Von Glan, Louis, Ferdinand, Morgan, Otley, Durrett, and Webb rounding off the back. These drivers, obviously, at the back, I'm not sure exactly how many of them, but a decent selection of these guys right at the back. I believe these lot from Von Glan backwards.
I think from Baldwin Louis backwards.
Yeah, it's not quite as far as I thought, perhaps, but some of these back markers did not set laps because they have got enough penalties from previous rounds to not be allowed to set a lap. They've had a grid penalty of sent to the back. Oh, alt tap back into the game to turn these. Attempting to alt tap back into the game. I have clicked the wrong button. Everything is back to normal. We sit on the starting line. I actually really like this camera angle as well. A nice look down the straight as Dan giving us a nice burnout out of his pit straight.
Everyone doing the burnout for the tire warming.
Everyone giving it that nice acceleration wiggle.
This is actually a good strategy to do that a bit in the beginning. Faults even the tire warming, as I've said. So that bit won't hurt the tires as much as it will help you for the start of the race.
Absolutely. A lot of people have been talking about how the new tire model is a lot harder to get your tires up to temperature. So you need to do a little bit of extra work. This weaving on the formation lap, I believe, has been confirmed now to definitely work in heating up your tyres, which is very good to see. Obviously, the good old strategy of just heating up your brakes also helps. And unfortunately, we'll see a lot of use of that, a lot more use than that than you normally see in ACC, because the formation laps are ghosted, and so you can really pile it on and not have to worry about clappering into the back of anyone.
Ooh, someone spun in the back and now got reset to pits, it seems. Number 12, who's that?
Number 12, that is Roy Bottomley. Interesting, Luis Fernandez, Roy Bottomley, and Zach Morgan are all in the pits according to my timing. So, perhaps for getting to drive, perhaps a couple more spinners that we missed, but an interesting start. We get around towards the end of the lap. We can see Dan Terry has started to have the drivers connect up to him in this 2x2. A late form up on Brands Hatch because the only straight that you really get a good chance to do it is right near the end. So we'll hop into Helicam to get a good look at the start. Bentley there holding a little bit far back, I think. I'm not sure. Like, Dan Terry's really far out. I hope he doesn't get a drive-through for being too far forward, but I also am hoping that the other drivers aren't so far back that this is reasonable as we see them now dive into the front. Dan Terry has an easy jump into the lead. The Ferrari of Paul Crumph, they're really pushing it on the inside to get ahead of the other Ferrari as we head up towards the hairpin. Gonna rewind it there a little bit to catch some of our drivers further back. We're seeing 3 wide with David Long back here through the hairpin, but they all manage it safely. We haven't seen any incidents here, although I didn't look too far back on the pack. Oh, we actually see Tweedy there, just himself making a mistake and going off wide there, as Paul Cramp still side by side with this Porsche, and there's a McLaren that's gone off the track, and that's going to ruin it for the Porsche. He has to dive out of the way of it to avoid clattering into the back of that car, as you see another Porsche just behind this. Ooh, and an incident there with that McLaren who'd gone off, hitting into David Long. I didn't see the issue myself, as we can now throw on the broadcasting and see how the times are going. We have Dan Terry up in the front still, not with a huge lead over Paul Cramp. Nathan Brunswood in the other Ferrari, having a little look at it there, but not a great place to overtake this far back, as we have Andrew Hearn, Daniel Grundhofer, Bruce Urs, Hughes, I need to decide how to say his last name, Pavel Oronovich, and Duncan Walker rounding out your top 10. I can see a few yellow flags on the back straight. Did you see any incidents happening further back in the pack, Julian?
It was carnage. There were at least 10 cars involved in turn 2, and then there were at least 10 cars involved in turn 4 again. Probably the same 10 cars, but...
AM-Split being very AM-Split here, and you can see there is a nice group of cars up front. A bit of a drop back where we had that incident on the back straight, but we had such good action early on with people going free wide into the hairpin that we didn't catch all of the carnage further back. We can see a lot of people quite far back who've clearly been in incidents, as we are watching Griffel right now pushing on Burnswood, who's fallen quite far back from our original 2, although Paul Cramp is keeping the pressure on Daniel Terry.
Yeah, and it's really Dan Terry's race to lose right here. He's really looking to be safe, but safe is not necessarily fast. Paul Cramp, on the other hand, is looking to go fast, and he's going a bit too fast right there.
And there can be that issue, as you see Bentley off in the background as well. He's now lost the position, Nathan Burnswood, and this should open up quite a nice situation for Dan Terry, who's going to feel much calmer now going through the rest of the race. Doesn't have that car right on his back, and Paul Cramp is going to have to fight his way past Nathan Burnswood, unless Nathan Burnswood can pick up his pace and catch up to the back of Dan Terry. Oh, there we see Chowdhury going for a move around Hearn. Doesn't quite make it, but being really aggressive there. Hearn diving in on the inside and defensive. And this is allowing some of the cars just behind them to catch up as well. But a lot of these drivers here looking to push up towards the front. I'm going to jump back to some of our guys who are in the pack further behind. We see Tweedy and Hewick at the start of this pack, trying to catch up to the guys further ahead. These two seem to be pulling away from the rest of this pack as a whole. And then there's a big crowd of guys here. We just see the McLaren going off, a couple of people having made mistakes.
Yeah, there's already a few packs forming right there. Dan Terry seems to be in his own pack in front, leading 3 guys, leading 6 guys, it seems like, and then the mass of the drivers is about to come. So it's already showing that it's very heavily dependent on your lap-to-lap speed on here.
Ooh, so
that was a move that didn't work.
Paul Burnswood there made a mistake earlier on, made the exact same mistake as Paul Cramford made earlier. Paul Cramford managed to get past him, but making that mistake there was clearly slower than the other car behind him would have expected, and caused an incident there. Very awkward situation, as we see this is even more splitting up our front group. We can see here Bruce Grundhofer and Pavel, who are fighting for position, and the 2 in front of them, but our front 3 now have pretty huge gaps between them, because Griffel has been consistent as Dan Terry, but not quite as fast. And then Crampf and Brunswood have both gotten themselves into issues, which have all pushed them back into the pack behind.
Yeah, and now it's the time for the top drivers to start their hot lapping pace, because they are so separated from one another. It's really about the concentration now, not making any mistakes, as we have seen already some mistakes, as to not let other cars catch up to you.
Absolutely, quite a messy grid going back in the pack as we see Jacob Surison, who is off there, losing a lot of places in that Lexus, absolutely falling down. Luckily, he actually went off the road just before the sector point, so we got to see that almost in real time, as now Zach Morgan in the anime McLaren even gets past him, so he's really dropped back, it seems. 24th now, he'll be just ahead of Lewis Webb. As back at the front, Kalpesh has now hopped in front of Nathan Brunswood. We didn't exactly see how that happened, but could have been another mistake. Could have just been Cloudpre's good driving. These Bentley boys both here are very fast, so wouldn't be surprised to see them pushing forward. I wouldn't be surprised to have Nathan Brunswood have lost a little bit of confidence there, as we see the other Bentley of Grundhofer looking a little bit aggro into that corner. Very hard to overtake around this shorter GP part of the racetrack, but obviously some people will always go for that opportunity if it shows itself.
Yes, of course. There once was a great saying, if you no longer go for a gap, you know the rest.
Yep.
Some people really take that to heart, as we see the first penalties being dished out.
Absolutely, Daniel Durrett getting a 5 seconds there at the bottom of our list for early incident. Surprising, because he looks like he's jumped up quite far up this list, so he clearly didn't suffer too much from any of those early incidents that he was involved in. Another thing to keep mind of is going to be tricky, going to make this a bit tricky for you and me, is that, like the first race that we this is looking like it's going to become a bit of a Super GT sort of typical huge grid multi-class race, because Dan Terry and Paul Krampf up at the front here are already passing back markers, which is going to make this slightly harder to follow, because there's going to be just like so many people in the way.
I almost already wanted to say that Dan Terry went off, but no, he just went out of the way of a back marker there.
Yeah. Yep, it's going to be dangerous as well. Obviously, a lot of people in the AM split new to serious racing competition in general, let alone multi-class racing, as we see huge move being made there by the Bentley. That was an unneeded risk, I would say, as you see no room on there to get through. He made a very good job of not causing an incident there, but the Aston Martin has leaped ahead of him, and now he's getting frustrated, stuck behind the Aston Martin, and even slowed up a little bit there in that braking zone where we clearly saw he almost hit him. He now has Pavel down the side of him in the Nissan GTR, and another car looking to overtake him as well. This is a absolute, like, lesson point as Pavel dives into the pit lane there to clear his pit early. We're seeing Daniel Grundhofer now carrying on. That was a clear example of losing positions begetting more losing of positions, and that is why I always say you shouldn't make these super risky overtakes unless the guy in front makes a really big mistake, because even if you could just squeeze in front, the risk is too high that something like that will happen, and you won't just fail to overtake, but that you will lose multiple positions, as it looks like that's Chowdhury coming up on the back of Daniel Duret's Lamborghini, I believe. So this is a back marker. You can see the blue flags out there. He's going to have to get out of the way ASAP. A reminder to everyone who's watching, especially if you're driving in our future splits, that the rulebook has been updated with a slightly harsher wording of our blue flags rule. Basically saying if you are being blue flagged, it is not just enough for you to allow them to overtake you. You have to attempt to get out of the way, essentially. Which hopefully we will see Daniel Duret doing here, but he doesn't seem to be doing right now. And he could definitely get in trouble for this. Yeah, definitely bad blue flag respect going on there.
Yeah, racing with someone when you're blue flagged is really not is really not anything anybody should ever do. But as he's still going at it. This is... If I was his race engineer, I would tell him to calm down now, get into the pits now, because he definitely needs to calm down. This is...
Yeah, he's got a penalty. Got a penalty, and he's right near the back, so definitely could be a little bit frustrated here as we see Paul Crampf coming back on the back of Dan Terry. He's been slowly catching out throughout the early stages of the race, and past that back marker who slowed them down a little bit. They was getting really close indeed. So this could spice up our fight for the lead, as on their last laps, Dan Terry was a 1:25.5, but Paul Crampf put in a 1:24.8. His fastest a 1:24.7 in race, so that's incredibly fast. That is good qualifying pace right there from the Ferrari as they come round to the first corner. This could be where we see it happen. Dan Terry had a little bit of a mistake there earlier on in the straight, so isn't going to be at his fastest as we see a bunch of cars, including David Long, in the pits. Ferrari dives out for the outside. Daniel Terry sitting in the middle of the road. And going around the outside of that first corner is a big ask, but Dan Terry on the grass there, on the sand, manages to just get in the way of the Ferrari, but the Ferrari is taking the inside line there. Very hard to go 2x2 through here, so one of them's probably going to have to back up or end up going on the grass. They both actually end up making it, but Paul lost so much time there, he may as well have backed off, and he's going to have to compose himself and go for it again.
Yeah, it's really challenging to go for an overtake anywhere on this track. And Dan Terry, they are doing textbook defending. I have to say that sitting in the middle of the road, that's what I always do as well. It's lovely seeing that. It is really, it's kind of a bad move for the car in the back, kind of annoying, but it is very good defending. And Dan Terry seems to be composed right now, seems to just go on his lines.
Oh, that looks like one back marker. Two back markers were on the right side of the road to let people pass, and then he pulled out, looking to take the line for the corner, not realizing Nathan was there by the looks of it, and just absolutely knocked him off. I was just about to say Nathan Burnswood might already be feeling it a little bit with that 10 seconds of penalty that he got for knocking into that car that we saw him hit earlier. As Paul, again, looking for it around the outside, and again, good defensive driving from Dan Terry doesn't let him do it. Going to go outside into the hairpin now, maybe try to get a switchback, but way too wide there, and this is something that you will see a lot in rookie championships like this one. A lot of people have done a lot of hot lapping practice, trying to get good times, trying to be consistently fast, but a lot of people don't spend that time in a race. They don't practice overtaking, and so when you are trying to brake as late as possible and change the position and line that you're normally braking, you'll see a lot of people going wide like that because they haven't had enough time doing it to work out how to do it right.
But you know what this fighting does? This fighting allowed Keith Griffel in P3 to catch up with them, being over 2 seconds faster in the last lap. Really catching up there. Also making his fastest lap of the session 1:24.8. A beautiful hot lapping pace there, as he is pretty much allowed to watch the battle unfold in front of him.
Absolutely great pace by him here, bringing himself up into contention. So we have 3 brands now who could be fighting for the lead. And obviously this battle between Paul and Dan Terry is going to keep going on as we hop over to Paul's car. They're coming out the pits. A little bit of a tricky pit lane here, but not too bad, honestly. Not having really the same look at it now. You can see Dan putting himself right in the middle of the road there, just absolutely not allowing Paul to get past. And I think, getting a nice run out there, but he's not going to try it through here. Even though he's so much faster, he just has to let off that speed, which is always so frustrating when you have to let off speed because of the car in front. But you do have to do it. It's your prerogative at this point, and your responsibility not to crash into the car in front of you. As we get to the halfway mark, our battle at the front is the same between Dan Terry, Paul Crampf, with Keith Griffel just sneaking up, and Kalpesh Chowdhury making a really good run for it in 4th position. He's not even too far behind these guys fighting at the front.
Yeah, Chowdhury is really is really showing strong today. He's been able to keep up really well up there as an M even.
Ooh,
But
that
gets into
was
a little
scary.
bit of very much trouble.
Holy, that was David Long who was sitting there. Brakes held, so good job there, but sitting right across the track. Looks like he may have been collected there by someone else who didn't manage to get past him as safely there. But that's a very scary thing. But it's not trying to get back on the track, but a little too hard on the loud pedal, trying to get back on too fast. That's something you do actually see quite a bit on this track. And again, something that if you've done more racing rather than hot lapping, you will be a bit ready for, is seeing those cars strewn out there, because it's a very common place to spin. As we look at Keith Griffel from third place diving into the pits, you can see a ton of people in the pits, mandatory pit stop and tyre change in every level of our season this split. So Keith Griffel hoping that he can I love this strategy. Julian. He's caught up to the front three drivers, and as he gets close, he immediately pits, putting himself in clean air again so he can just get back to hot lapping, which he's clearly been doing well. And this whole time while he's doing this, Paul Cramph is having his time slowed by being stuck behind not just Dan Terry, who was driving slower than him to start with, but an incredibly defensive Dan Terry, who's taking extra slow lines in order to stay ahead. These guys are lapping at 126s right now, when both of them were doing 124s or close to 124s.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to set that in quotation marks with the clean air, because of everything being
Good point, yeah.
everywhere.
If he can find some clean air.
It's really a lucky game right now. If you're lucky, you get some clean air. If you're not so lucky, you get some back markers stuck in front of you. Keith Griffel right now seems like he is the latter, having a sight of a bunch of back markers.
Yep, and as he comes around some of these corners, he still has a few more back markers behind him, and this is an incredibly important lap from him, because as we saw, both of the leaders dived into the pit at the same time. None of them leaving it right out to the last minute. Oh, Honda there, getting out of himself, the same place we saw someone spun earlier, as we said. Very common place to see people spin there. Peter Hewitt coming into the pits to clear his stop-go 30 that he got for speeding in the pit lane.
That, for Peter Hewitt, is a very bad moment.
So here comes Daniel Terry out of the pits, and huge Keith Griffel has dived past him, and he managed to get the clean air I was talking about. A huge hot lap from Griffel, shout outs to that, and he's managed to jump out ahead of Dan Terry. Where is Paul Cramph? Paul Cramph over here, we can see, is just behind Terry. So those two kept their positions. No one having a bad pit stop, but a huge shout out to Keith Griffel for the good strategy there. Is going to get him ahead, and he even has a back marker in between Dan Terry and Paul Cramph and himself.
Yeah, it's just textbook undercut. You cannot say anything against it. It's as you said, beautiful, diving out of the way when he sees someone, has to not get slowed down. But Dan Terry is already past the back marker, and now he's trying to catch up as soon as possible.
Didn't even see him get past that back marker, so I assume shout outs to that back marker for getting out of the way in a reasonable time. Dan indicating still. A lot of people not used to using their indicators, tries to show people he's going for the pit and forgets to turn it off. Very common. Hopefully no one gets confused by that. And as our last two have dived into the pits, this three are now back into our lead. And halfway through the race, we can see how we're going to go to the finish. Oh, a little wiggle there by the McLaren.
But Keith Griffel, yeah, he's really saved it. He went on the inside curb there and almost spun out. The inside curb being very dangerous to the McLaren, of obviously a very low to the ground car with high aero dependency.
Oh, this is a big moment because there are back markers here getting in the way. Dan there getting a nice run in him. Paul has got really locked by some of these back markers. This Ferrari here needs to just absolutely back out of this corner, but he's not going to. Going side by side with the McLaren. Doesn't get in the way, and hopefully will settle in behind him. But this is a bad moment for Dan Terry, who's now stuck with Paul Krampf right up behind him. The Ferrari back marker has gone onto the inside, but it's not long until the next corner where they're going to need to dive for the inside. So he's trying to get out of the way. Not doing it the best, but, you know, we're a rookie series, so everyone has to learn these things. And our three front runners are back together as Dan Terry is pulling over to make sure that Paul Krampf doesn't sneak around there. Paul Krampf, super fast out of that last corner, is doing really well. So we are moving around to the first corner, as luckily for Dan Terry, his indicator is pointing the right way for most of the corners on this track. So, I mean, it's not technically wrong, I guess.
Yes. I just had another observation, though, about Mr. Griffel right in front of there. He's not looking very stable right now. It seems like he's very under pressure, knowing that Dan Terry and Paul Krampf are right behind him, and he's making mistake after mistake. The only reason he's not been overtaken yet is because of these pesky back markers. But it seems like there's none in the way for quite some time right now. They have some clean air.
Absolutely. Keith clearly a little bit shaken after that mistake. Almost threw everything away from him. Hopefully he can calm down those nerves and get into a rhythm now that he's had a little bit more time to sit out in front. You can see these guys are not as consistent as our top splitters, so they're constantly toing and froing closer and further in each different sector from each other. You can see which sectors each driver's better in very clearly. And everyone making sure to try and set up for a move for this last corner. Pit window closing, but everyone is closed. So thank you, Jim, but we didn't need to know that.
Is his name Jim?
I don't know if his name's Jim. I know that I've started using Crew Chief recently, and his name's Jim. So it's either the only two race engineers I know is Jim from Crew Chief and Jeff from Formula One. So I was going to go with one of those.
That's fair enough. But the fight for P1 is still ongoing right here. And okay, I've not noticed this. I'm only noticing this now. He's quite some time behind, but Pavel Aronowitz is looking to get as far up as possible. He's managed to make quite some places up during the pit window.
Great pit stops by Pavel Aronovich has put him right at the top. Kalpesh Chowdhury losing out to both him and Daniel Groudhofer, who looks like, according to this, he actually might be ahead of Pavel. He is. So Pavel showing a little bit higher than he was there, thanks to the way that ACC records times. But Grundhofer is in fourth, followed by Pavel, both of which had good pit stops and overtook Kalpesh Chowdhury. Eric Strom, Ray Birch, Tom Tweedy, and Bruce Hughes making up the last of our top 10. So our podium for AM is Kalpesh Chowdhury, Ray Birch, and Tom Tweedy.
Yeah, and Kalpesh Chowdhury is looking very secure right now. He is like 20-30 seconds ahead of P2 in M split. Been doing very well to keep up the pace right here.
Absolutely, and Paul here is all over the back of the Aston, but again, like, Dan is still just sitting in the middle of the road, just doing a decent amount of work to keep Paul behind him, taking those slower lines, which is so frustrating to a driver like Paul, who's just stuck behind and not able to overtake. But he's also managing to take those slower lines while keeping up with Keith Griffel and the rest of the lap, so not really ruining himself.
Now they're coming up to a bunch of back markers again. Let's see how they get out of the way.
Well, yeah, Lewis Webb there, good friend of Dan Terry, getting out the way of him quickly, but also getting out the way of everyone else. And actually, Paul went for the dive there. Not a place you can make a move. That was really over-ambitious for Paul, I think. And that sets Dan Terry loose. Dan Terry not getting slowed down hugely by that, coming up to another backmarker as we see a McLaren off there to the left who has spun. Backmarker getting out of his way very nicely, and Paul Krampfer's now fallen right down. He's hasn't lost too much. It doesn't look like he's lost a position or anything. As Pavel said before, fourth position is quite far behind. Although actually I just noticed there that while fourth position is quite far behind, Pavel has overtaken that back marker and is right on the back of Daniel Grundhofer and challenging him for fourth position. Just checking at the front of the field, Dan Terry is still close to Keith Griffel, so these are now two battles that we have rather than one freeway battle up at the front.
Yes, it's always really nice. There are probably more battles on the grid happening. It's not all just back markers.
Absolutely, these back markers are the battles of their own race.
Oh, but it seems like Paul Krampus had a major mistake because he's now fallen behind 10-15 seconds behind Dan Terry. Yeah, it seems like, and he's going wide again. Paul Krampf is not really having the concentration right now he needs.
Paul Krampf, after failing that overtake, has clearly taken some psychological damage, as it were, after that, and is struggling to get back into a rhythm. Not much left in this, so really for him right now, settle down with third, calm down, and get ready to try again in the next race. Honestly, he just needs to keep his mindset up there. As backmarker's getting in the way on the first corner, but doing slowing down before the corner to make sure that the two leaders get past in front.
The old classic strategy of slowing down and getting into the grass.
Yeah, not... As we said, rookie championship. People are going to need to practice a little more, both passing and being backmarked. Although we see a Honda there who was not being lapped by anyone, who also made the same mistake, so it is not the easiest of corners, to be fair to him.
No, it is very challenging. And you know what's also very challenging? Being fought by backmarkers and Dan Terry almost being taken out right there by a backmarker. That was a close call right there by a rejoiner.
I just left that as I saw him rejoining and freaked out, but it is okay. And that looks like a move attempt there, but there is a back marker there, Dan, and he only just escapes pounding into that back marker. No fault of the back marker, obviously. Dan just going for a move where there wasn't an opportunity because of that extra car there. And that's the sort of thing that can happen in these sort of Super GT-esque races, but he's right behind Keith here and clearly more confident at this stage of the race. Going to look to make some big aggressive drive into this first corner. Pulling back a tiny bit though is going to make it more difficult, and he's actually not even close enough to have any attempt at all as we run towards the hairpin.
You can very beautifully see if you watch these two where one is stronger and where one is weaker. Keith Griffel is stronger out of the corners, out in the acceleration, while Dan Terry is very strong on the brakes in his Aston, of course being praised for his brakes. But he's really showing that the strength is there.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we can't see what their settings are, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of that came from... I know that... I think it's Dan Terry and some of those guys actually in that who run their traction control and ABS quite high comparatively to a few of the other guys. Just sort of used to that safety from what they've been doing before. It came from Project Cars, which is a bit more of an unstable game in terms of its physics than ACC, and might not be used to taking the traction control off and just feathering the throttle. And that might be a big advantage for Keith Griffel as the backmarker gets out of Pavel's way, but Pavel has lost quite a bit of time to Grundhofer already.
The last lap is starting now. And Dan Terry is right on the back of Keith Griffel.
Exactly, but he's not close enough. It looks like that's where he'll stay, unfortunately, and just get a second. Hopefully he doesn't try anything too crazy on this last lap, desperate to get a position. Keith's going to have to make a big mistake to let him do that, and Dan just make a little bit of mistake there. As you say, Keith being faster on the corner exits, Dan trying to make it up there and just getting a little bit too much on the grass, so pushing where he's not quite as comfortable, and has started making some mistakes.
Not all mistakes, though. It's also back markers as they are coming again. But this one moves nicely out of the way, and now there's clean air until the end. And this was a huge mistake by Keith Griffel. This was not a contact, as far as I could see it, but just a mistake. Keith Griffel going wide there, allowing Dan Terry to overtake just before the third to last corner. This gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt.
Yeah,
if you're
it
Keith
is
Griffel.
possible there was like a little bit of netcode there. I couldn't see it very well from the angle we were watching, but the stewards will decide if that's there. For now, Dan Terry taking a desperate lead on the last lap and managing to get the win there. So shouts out to him for having a very good race where he's made a few mistakes overall. Keith Griffel as well. Fantastic race. Daniel Grunhofer going to come over the line now just ahead of Pavel. We're going to keep hopping down the list to try and find if there are any battles going to the line. Gary Allen coming in just behind De Borger here for 21st and 22nd. But Ray Birch here is following Tom Tweedy quite closely, and Tom Tweedy with that 5-second penalty means that Ray Birch will be taking this position after all goes through. And Zach Morgan here has come up from right at the back of the grid. A great work from him to just stay out of trouble by the looks of it and get through. Zach Morgan, ladies and gentlemen, started in 40th position on the grid and is coming through to finish in 11th position. That is big.
That is really huge. Also behind him, Mark Turner starting from 25th, finishing in 12th, and Daniel Jarrett starting in 36th and finishing in 13th. That is some big winners right there. Absolutely.
And as I hop in to prepare our podium, give us a rundown on how you felt about that race.
It felt cleaner. It felt cleaner than usually, which is a nice change for a bit. It was interesting. It was a great fight for the lead all of the time between Dan Derry, Keith Griffel, and Paul Krampf. We have seen the tensions rising high for all of them. It was an amazing race. I have to say this.
Yep,
I really enjoyed seeing it.
Absolutely agree. We had a great race going on there. It was a bit hard. It was one of those typical, a bit hard to keep up with, as I said, a sort of Super GT style race with lots of back markers and traffic issues. But as we move over to our podium, we see Daniel Terry taking the win over a fantastic drive from Keith Griffel just to put himself out high, and Paul Krampf up in third place. There was incidents at the start, obviously, but like you said, overall it did feel cleaner. I saw less penalties, which is, a way to sort of work out how that is. I haven't got the steward sheet up, so we'll have to check with the steward sheet if it was actually cleaner. It definitely wasn't as clean as some of the pro split we'd seen, but it was decent for the AMs. Good fights up front. The free between Terry Griffel and Krampf was very fun. Obviously, a shout out to Kalpesh Chowdhury, Tom Tweedy, and Bruce Hughes, who are the top three, the podium sitters for AM. Should have perhaps added them to this, but I didn't think of that. We're going to try and start doing that as we go. And for driver of the day, we normally have a vote where we put in a P and then the position of the driver you want to vote for into the chat. Feel free to put your votes in and we'll have a chat about them. But I think the clear winner of this has to be Zach Morgan for that incredible run from 40th on the grid up into a position with in the points, definitely, because they're at the top 15 of each split get points. He was 11th overall after starting 40th. Huge drive from my man. A lot of P11s getting thrown in the chat. P75. That's not one. A couple of shout outs for Keith Griffel as well. Very well deserved shout outs for Keith Griffel. He had a great race, great pit stop strategy.
Another thing I gotta mention about Zach Morgan, completely agree, by the way. But he is an AM driver. That means he's going to take even more points right home there, being behind a bunch of pro drivers. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. He's right up at the front for the AM drivers. So that's going to be a big amount of points.
And by the way, I have taken a look at the stewards sheet for tonight. It has been 46 incidents, which is less than half of both of the races we had so far in this split.
Fantastic work then by our boys to step it up from the first race to last. And as we now sit on the grid, we go green. We are going to take a quick break and throw to some highlights. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you when we get back.
Bring the smell of rain into my bed and lie so close to me. You could be inside my head. Maybe it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing to feel the kind of magic that your love brings.
we are back into the game. For our second race of tonight, we do 2 30-minute races with 1 mandatory pit stop. As always, this is the Friday amateur broadcast, which means that tomorrow there will be the silver split broadcast by Lars and Paul. And on Sunday, we have both the second round of our solo endurance championship 2.4 hour race around Silverstone, but also the pro split at Brands Hatch. Another 2 30-minute, I think there's still 2 30-minute races. It might be longer in pro, actually. I've just realised I don't actually remember what the times are. But as we come round to the last straight, our drivers are going to start going 2 by 2. Someone is clearly on the wrong side there. Possibly confused by someone having dropped out, but no one right at the front has dropped out, so not sure where that's from. I am a big wisher that there would not be these ghosted first laps, so that we wouldn't get these really weird starts. But I hope everyone is ready for the second race. We had a fantastic first race, and we are about to go green for our second, as we see it looks like an empty space behind Chowdhury there. Not sure how that has managed to happen unless someone is in the pits on the first lap, as we see Dan Terry once again going into the first corner. Nathan a little bit wiggly on there, going right out to the outside. Didn't quite lose it into the first corner, but it looks like the second corner, Paul Krampf will once again be taking second position, as we see a decent fight for the lead. Let's hop back and see if we can catch any of this carnage if it happens again. Not seeing anything yet. Looks like they've all got through reasonably clean, which is nice and exciting. Hopping back up to the front of the field. We've got a nice big train of cars here, as we can see Tom Tweedy making a move on the Lexus in the background, trying to squeeze through a little bit there. There's Jacob Surson in the Lexus, as Daniel Terry leads once again. You can see that Daniel Terry is followed once again by Paul Krampf and Nathan Brunswood. Andrew Hearn managing to get ahead of Keith Griffel in the early stages of the lap, so perhaps Andrew Hearn can make a bigger run of it this time. And then our 2 Bentleys are still together, of Groundhoffer and Chowdhury. One of the McLarens further back has disappeared. I believe that is the McLaren who didn't start, and then Bruce and Pavel round out our top 10.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing... Ooh, there's been a major incident now.
Oh yeah, there's something big there.
I was about to say this was beautiful. Oh, that is a bad rejoin.
Oh god, the yellow flags just aren't going away. I'm not even watching them. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I was about to say this was a very clean first lap. It was even...
Almost was.
I say that as another crash happened, and another... What are these guys at the back doing?
Oh no. A couple of our back markers have just absolutely not getting along back there. Interestingly, at the front, we haven't seen anything big happening, but what we do see is that Paul Krampf and Dan Terry have broken hugely free of the next pack, and then the next pack is very much separated from the guys just behind them. At the start of this pack, we can see David Long pushing Tom Tweedy, these two who we often see fighting right at the front here, 2 of the very fast AM drivers. They're going to be right at it again. Long right on the inside there. Looks like a tiny bit of a tap as they both try to squeeze through a corner, which really isn't big enough for 2. And that allows the Lexus of Jacob Surson to leap into the middle and take the lead of this huge pack. As we look at the start of the first pack, and we can actually see right behind there Brandhofer going side by side with Nemeth, who was trying to dive in but didn't quite make it into the first corner. These guys are battling hard all the way up to 3rd position for any spaces in the top 10.
Yeah, there's some names in there that we haven't seen last race doing very well. Nathan Burnswood and Andrew Hearn being especially noteworthy, at least to me right now. Nathan Burnswood leading the pack of the followers behind Danteri and Paul Cramp. Very good of him to be able to keep in that position right now, as he's starting to pull away from the pack.
Absolutely, setting some decent fast laps as we go. We'll throw back to throughout the field this early on because there doesn't seem to be a huge fight for the lead. We've got a nice thick pack here as well further on. The start of this gaggle has started to spread out, but back here we still have some really hotly contended places. And people making mistakes there. The Porsche goes wide but manages to just stay ahead. He's going to be much slower through there. But the Aston doesn't do anything crazy and try and push ahead real close here. Might be able to make something happen into the first corner now as he's so fast. But luckily for the Porsche, he gets a bit of a reset there coming down to the first corner. Goes a little bit wide. Actually, the Aston has got on the inside here. He's on the inside even before the corner. So this looks like an easy place made. Well, very rarely we see the Aston managing to come out in front in a grunt battle there, but the Porsche might be the only car who he manages to. A little tap there sends him a bit wobbly and actually ruins that attempt for him as the Nissan now is getting much closer, much faster into that corner and just not realizing the difference in speed there. That's something that, again, if once you do more racing, you're gonna have to get used to there, sometimes being these huge differences in momentum and knowing that you need to brake more for that. You cannot just stay on your regular racing line as this Porsche here of Duncan Walker pushes out Wanzek in the Ferrari.
Yeah, there's speed difference. Being able to judge the different speeds is something everyone really has to learn. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here with this rookie league, because these people need to learn it if they want to get into the bigger leagues. And they are going to learn it by force, practically, because if they do not confirm to it, then they will get penalties.
Absolutely. One of the great things about ACCSS, one of the things that makes it stand out amongst a lot of other sim racing leagues, not just rookie sim racing leagues, but all sim racing leagues, that we do have in our championship series consistent live stewarding. So if there is bad play from some of these drivers, they will be getting time penalties, as you saw in the last race, as we watched Tom Tweedy making a push on the back of Bruce Hughes. Pavel Aronovich doing a really good job so far, has made himself up to 7th, so diving ahead of some people here, as Groundhoffer seems to have fallen back. Groundhoffer and Chowdhury both now at the end of the top 10.
Yeah, Chowdhury had a really good race. It seems like he sort of lost the rhythm in the meanwhile. Looking good for Tom Tweedy, though, who is looking to consolidate his lead in the championship for the AM split of this here bronze league.
Absolutely. He is in the lead of AM right now. The pro drivers showing why they're the pros. It's not just the pace, but it is also some of the consistency. Obviously, these are the two lowest tiers that we have in our championship, but there is some difference between those. We see the Lamborghini getting really wild there, tries to correct it, and actually spins in front of the Ferrari. The Ferrari very lucky to miss it there. Lamborghini doesn't hold off on his brakes, but does roll off of the track, so no one catches up with him. A really unfortunate mistake there from Wanzek, as we see Pavel now really close onto the back of this McLaren, and that is Nambeth. That was a back marker that they were both diving in front of, that Audi. Who actually gets in the way of Tweedy, we saw in the background there. Unfortunate there. As I say there, way too much.
If you want to go back to the front right now, Paul Krampf has really caught up to Danteri and they're fighting.
Yep, absolutely. Huge lead for these guys. Huge, huge, huge lead. You can see on the map there is one car not too far behind him, but that's actually Lewis Webb, who is down near the bottom in the Lexus. He's a back marker. The next actual car is that 888 car, Griffith, who's just coming around through the head of the GP section. So huge lead by these two as they make a run toward the first corner.
and they already have the back markers coming in. Now they have quite some clean air in front of them for their fight. But we'll have to see how this plays out, because Dan Terry didn't have too many. Well, I say he didn't have too many leading laps. It was basically exactly this in the first half of the race. As
Yeah.
Paul Craft looks on the inside right here, but is on the outside for the next corner. So he wisely backs out there before another accident
Absolutely.
happens, like we already seen last race.
He doesn't want to do what he has done before. Not wanting to make that same mistake again. As we look back, and car 888, who was the next car behind, has hit Keith Griffel, one of the early guys diving into pits, along with Pavel Aronovich and Tom Tweedy. Some of our front runners trying to get that big undercut on, as a ton of people dive into the pits.
Yeah, some of those people getting the early pits out of the way. The problem is that some of the backmarkers who were involved in the crash early in the race had to pit already for damage. But that was a huge save right there.
Yeah, that was very close to being death there. For Nemeth, good job there, not falling that in, but that's going to throw him slightly further behind his competitor. The Porsche there staying nicely out of the way, as Paul Krampf and Terry have to start passing more people there. Audi going nice and wide. Hopefully he stays off the gas into this corner to make sure Paul gets past, but he doesn't want to go too much off the gas because he's fighting his own battle with that Porsche most likely, and so he does manage to stay ahead. Actually, the Porsche is pushing on him, though. The Porsche looks like he's taking it there, just out of frame, so I didn't realize it at first. Unfortunate there for the Audi. Nemeth right on the back of Burnswood, trying to make a fight for fourth to go along with this fight for first.
And Andrew Hearn, meanwhile, all on his own, just hot lapping it off right now. He hasn't been able to do this last race, but this time around, it looks like a really simple stuff for him to do. Just keep concentrating, do your own pace, and it will be fine.
We've just caught Cloudish there as a Cloudery there, Kelpish Cloudery, as his internet, it looks like, has abandoned him, and he has disappeared out of halfway through this little pack here. Sure, we see Thibaut Adam at the back of here, pushing Jacob Surison. Actually diving into the pits now, feels like he was getting slowed up, perhaps, by the car in front. A lot of our cars pitting here, so a lot of the on-track fights have started to die out, as Alan there is passed by Tweedy, but that's actually, Tweedy is already pitted, so Tweedy's actually unlapping himself there in front of Gary Allen. Gary Allen not getting in the way. Realizes even though he's a lap ahead, he knows that he is the slowest driver, and so sensibly doesn't make an issue out of it. 5-second penalty for, must have been something on lap 1.
Could very well be. And out of the already pit drivers, Pavel Aronovich is currently fighting Keith Griffel on the start-finish straight.
Keith Griffel very high up positioning in our last race, so Pavel has really just been improving and improving on this track, has managed to stay or leap ahead of him. We didn't see where he came out after the pits, but a really good job here. Only Grundhofer ahead of him out of those who have pit. He's just down the road.
Looking really lovely for these. Trying to undercut, of course, while at the front, Dan Terry has pit and Paul Krampf is currently the sole leader. So we're gonna have to see what Dan Terry comes out then in relation to, what was it? Daniel Grundhofer, of course.
Absolutely, Paul Krampf now takes over the lead of this race. I just want to say we need to remember to inform Dan Terry that this is an awful time to hold a race in game time, because it's just, the sun is just so bright, everything's so washed out, it looks horrible. Until we're in the shadows. Here it looks fantastic, nice and covered in shade. You see Paul dealing with some back markers. Still has a few minutes to pit, but is going to dive in now. Doesn't want to give Dan Terry too much time in order to hot lap him.
And Daniel Grundhofer had a bit of a problem right here with the back marker. Spinning out, actually, and losing position to Pavel Aronovich and Keith Griffel.
You see Griffel there right ahead of him.
No, that's the back marker.
No, that's a back marker even. Holy, that's no, that's not a back marker. That's Namath. He's fallen down a load of positions. He is now in 20th.
We are halfway through. Keep pushing.
Not a very good going by Daniel Grundhofer there, but we didn't see what happened there. Maybe it was the back marker's mistake for not moving out of the way. Maybe it was just an aggressive move. Anyways, it was a mistake that happened and should not have happened.
Either way, we have had one of our further forward drivers diving out ahead, and we need to check where our drivers are in chat. You can see Paul Krampf has managed to jump Terry in the pits, so Terry did not manage to pull a undercut on Krampf. Paul seems to be leading after his pit. Yep, they come over the timing beam now, and Paul is still ahead of everyone else who's pit. So it's now up to see if Hearn, who is just pitting now, can pit in time to come out ahead of Pavel, or if Pavel will be taking the third place. I love how from that camera down the back straight, you can actually see people just going left to right on the straight. That's quick reminder, exclamation mark timings in the chat throws you to pit wall if you want to take a look around a bit more of the competition than we're showing. If there's anyone that you want to personally follow, you can keep up with their sector times in there. As we focus right now on Nathan Burnswood, who is leading the race as of now. Where is Hearn? Just leaving the pits, and Pavel Aronovich is probably his big target, and he's still got a way to come. He's coming round the last corner. I'm not sure how much ahead you need to get out on this track, but this seems to be enough. That it is. So third place for Hearn, as it is.
Hearn has a good name with his team Skid Solo Racing, especially the solo part. He has been this entire race all alone, all on his own. Before the pit stop, now after the pit stop. He's just had the luck of the hot lapper.
Yep. This is a blessing or a curse, depending on what sort of sim racer you are. And he is just rolling around as Dan Terry is now, excellent camera work, ACC, thank you, having a go at Paul Krampf. Not a great place to have a go, but his aggression there, forcing Krampf into mistake, and this is something that you can do in these positions. It's dangerous to actually have a go, but if you position yourself as if you're going to, you can very often scare the driver in front into making a mistake, and that seems to be what happened there. Paul, trying to brake as late as possible to avoid getting overtaken, has gone too wide and has now fallen behind Daniel Terry, who retakes the lead of this race.
That is a great mental game there by Dan Terry. Seeing him get exactly into the head of Paul Krampf. He's just had the mental upper edge for both of these races, it seems. being able to defend so well in the first race and now being able to immediately get into the head of Paul Cramp, being able to lead him to this mistake. It's impressive behavior.
Absolutely. Dan Terry has obviously been driving with us for a long time, but it is good to see that he hasn't been leading many races, so it's good to see that he still has that consistency even with the pressure of the lead on him. We see most of our drivers now are pretty well split up. I don't believe there are many fights for position. That's actually Keith Griffel ahead of Pavel Aronovich, so this might be a fight for position. And we'll be able to tell at the next timing beam, but it seems like Pavel might have fallen behind Griffel, and there he has.
We need to remember Keith Griffel in the last race was fighting for the overall win. So he's definitely strong in here, and he's definitely looking to get another good position right here. So yes, he's going to take the Nissan of Pavel Aronovich as soon as he gets the possibility to.
We know this man has pace, and he is now starting to pull away from Pavel. The chase towards the leaders, the gaps being pretty big, so unlikely that he'll manage to get all the way there, but with the pace he was setting in the first lap, can't say it's impossible. He has... I just realised I can't trust my broadcasting to sort of gaps right now. He has a 5-second gap behind Hearn, as it last was. And that is going to be his 9-minute run to try and get on the podium.
Yeah, 9 minutes doesn't sound like much, but it is still 6 laps of full concentration on the road, keeping it on the roads between the white lines, of course, and that at maximum possible speed. That is a tall mental task, and hats off to everyone in here who manages to keep well balanced.
This is a little fight from the back markers we can see brewing here. For some reason I didn't think that was a Ferrari looking behind there, but that is a little fight for two there behind Van der Heck and Wally, who are battling for the lower down places here. Although you got to remember, these could be points paying positions. They are in pro, so it's less likely, but the top 15 of each split in our series get points as it is right now, and so we are paying points down to the 30th position in a way. Obviously, it's more likely that more of the pros will be in those top 30 positions, but there are a lot of people getting points in this race. Might be something we change for next season, but a lot of people like being able to fight for points, even if they're not the fastest of driver. So we see Tom Tweedy fighting for 19th position with the Porsche of Eric Strom. It's a little bit wide there and actually just lets him past. So not much of a fight, unfortunately.
But Tom Tweedy not looking all too well. He has been leader of the AMS already this race, but now only in first, second, what's it, 7th position for the AMS. That is not looking all too good for this championship leader for the AMS.
Nope, and Paul Krampf as well. It's not looking good for him, as he has fallen behind Dan Terry. Dan Terry right down the road. So Paul Krampf not able to put in the sort of fight that he's been going for previously. Here the Ferrari of Stephen Wally, still fighting with Chris van der Heck, and one of these is a back marker, I believe, but importantly this little pack of drivers here is starting to have Dan Terry coming up on the back of them. Yes, there's Dan Terry and then Waller and Van der Heck just in front of him, and then Eckhart von Glan in the Porsche just ahead of all of these guys. Dan getting ahead of the Ferrari there. But Aston there, where he's trying to stay tight, which will slow himself down, does let Dan Terry pass. But that is an awkward place to let him pass, or an awkward way at least to let him pass, because now the Ferrari's going to have another good run at him, although he covers the inside very well, that backmarker Aston, so he doesn't lose the position. And safely through so far. Gets through the hairpin. As long as he doesn't go too wide here, he should keep his position. And Dan Terry now sets his sight on passing this Porsche.
Yeah, for Dan Terry, it's just safely overtaking, getting past these back markers right here, because Paul Crumph is not too far away. Of course, he has the same task of passing these back markers, but still, the better you can manage passing, the higher the chances that you actually gain a lead out of the back markers interfering.
You can see a few more penalties now throughout the field. Paul Crumph passes those back markers himself. Grundhofer being the biggest name up here who has a penalty. In the top 10, but will be losing at least one position, if not more, due to that at the end of this race, unless he can pull out a much bigger lead than he has right now.
Just looking at the stewards sheet, it seems that at the moment we have 42 incidents, which is about as much as we had in the whole first race. But seeing as this race is almost over, we only got 4 minutes to go. It's nice to see that they have calmed down quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely a much better race from all these guys in terms of number of incidents. Very good to see, and we've had some fun fighting out at the front. So you watch the closest battle on track right now is Jacob Surson, who is catching up to Duncan Walker in the Porsche ahead of him. Oh, that was actually, as much as that didn't look like it, ladies and gentlemen, we just watched an overtake. Because I could see on the mini-map there that Thibaut Adam went off track there in the side of that corner. So you see Durat there jumping up a position, which looks like this puts him into 4th place in AMS, just behind this man, Jacob Surison. He's trying to catch him. He's got a bit of a way to do it now. But this should be, by the looks of it, the last podium position for AMS.
Ooh, there has just been... was there a contact between Surjan and...
Doesn't look like it, no. I think that that was a Mercedes backmarker who was trying to keep out of the way and just went a little bit too wide there, although Walker is now... having to get round his own back marker there. That's Gary Allen in the Aston who's holding them up here. This is an awkward place to get past, so Gary Allen not giving it up there, but Jacob gonna have to pass him as soon as possible on this straight here. Should be a really good time for Gary to do it. Hopefully he will dive out of the way. He might leave it till the next straight. If I was you, here's some advice for if any of you are racing here. This would have been a better place for Gary to... Oh, well. It's academic now as Daniel Durrett is going to dive in. That is an overtake. Daniel Durrett in the green Lamborghini diving past him for the podium position of Am. But I would have said that Gary would have had a better time backing out before that last corner, because then you can... lose time there, but the last corner is sort of a bit of an equalizer on this track. You can still get a good amount of pace through there to set yourself up for the last corner, as Zurison is clearly slightly flustered now as Daniel Durrett can drive ahead of him. Now Daniel Durrett has a 10-second penalty, so this isn't necessarily a podium for him, and seeing as it is so close to the end of the race, all Jacob has to do is just not bin it, and it looks like he will be still taking that podium home despite his mistake.
Yeah, Keith Griffel is way back.
Oh, Dan Terry actually hits a back marker there. The back marker spins, but Dan Terry keeps going, so not going to be too much of an incident right there. That does lock up that hairpin a little bit, but everyone else seems to get through reasonably fine. That's got to be a clencher of a moment right there on the last lap for Dan Terry. Unfortunate for whoever he hit as well, possibly losing positions down near the back of the field.
He hit number 3, Ian Otley.
Once again, Dan Terry risking his win on the last lap through possible penalties that could come in through careless lapping of back markers. Hopefully for his sake he doesn't get that.
I've just seen on the steward sheet it will be investigated after the race.
Absolutely. Which makes sense as the race is incredibly close to ending. I believe this should be checkered flag right here for Daniel Terry as he is wiggling across the line for his second victory. He did say before this he thought that this would be a strong track for him, as obviously he's been doing this so much. David Long coming in 7th place overall, first for our amateur split. Ray Birch going to be coming around in another Ferrari, in a little Ferrari sandwich there, to come second. And actually 7th overall. There have been enough penalties to knock Long and Birch up there, which is nice for them, up 1 each from Burnswood coming down. Then it'll be interesting to then see where our next AMS come. This is Daniel Durrett, who is in 3rd position on the track for AMS. Jacob actually pitting. Not sure why. Not the time you want to be pitting there, Jacob. I think he thought it ended a lap sooner.
Oh, that is very unfortunate right there, but that is going to be a lesson learned.
I think he thought he was on his cooldown lap. And what does that mean for this? Hold on, where's...
It's just fallen back 4 positions.
Yeah, because he's going to lose a whole lap essentially. Because his pit box, well, all the pit boxes on this track are before the start line, so he's never going to complete that last lap. Which means he's going to lose to Wirch as well, supposedly, when Wirch comes around, which he's just doing. Daniel Durrett was more than 10 seconds ahead of the next rival behind them, which is Thibaut Adam. So Daniel's actually going to keep his podium position because of that. What's happened to Wirch? Why is Wirch so slow? Is his car wrecked? Is his car big wrecked?
No, he's on the outlap.
No, he hasn't finished. He's run out of petrol.
Oh,
He's ran out of fuel. He's coasting to the line. He's being pushed to the line by a friendly Ferrari.
that is teamwork.
He
right
has
there.
ran out of petrol. And there we go. That is the last driver to cross the line. David Welch
Wow.
getting pushed by a Ferrari across the line because he ran out of petrol to finish the race. That's real stupid. We've had a real stupid end to this race, and that makes me happy. For up the timetable, because this is going to take a little while to end, because Jacob Surson has thought he was on the cooldown lap when he was actually on the last lap of the race, and has pit. And so the game is going to wait for him to complete his last lap, which obviously will not happen. So it's going to go to the maximum wait time, and this is our finishing, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Terry coming in first with Paul Crampf in second. Andrew Hearn in third. Keith Griffel in fourth. Pavel Aronovich in fifth. No. That's their positions in the pit. I was reading off the broadcast tool. I'm an idiot. Keith Griffel in fourth and David Long in fifth, with Birch in sixth, Brunswood in seventh, Bruce in eighth, Nemeth in ninth, and Durrett in 10th to round out the podium for our AM split. Our AM split podium being David Long, Ray Birch, and Daniel Durrett. People leaving the server now as well to make it that extra bit of confusing. Finally, all right. So we're back in here. Can we actually look at the? No, we cannot. Oh. Yeah. This is race 2, right? David Long, Birch, no Durett's in 14th. All right, so Dan Terry has come in with the music.
Sorry, it's stopping.
It's Christmas. How are you, Dan Terry?
Hold the fort 2 secs.
Oh, the 46. All right, screw Dan Terry. We're not talking to him right now. So we're
It's fun. I was just stopping the copyright page. Nothing's ever simple with me.
No, absolutely not. And how are you feeling after 2 wins?
Oh, it was fun. First one was stressful.
Stressful?
Spent the whole race defending from Paul, and then the whole second half of the race attacking Keith, and then I was in lounge chat that muted, and I muted myself, and I was like, I didn't hit him, did I? Because he just disappeared. But no, it turns out he just went off because of pressure. But no, that was good fun, and I'm not too really sure what happened at the end of race 2. I think Paul got stuck in traffic. A few cars just died in front of me as well. So, but no, it was good fun. But it was really good fun. So yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had good races. Both races much cleaner than our races before. Decent bit of action, especially in that first race. You had a great pack there up the front, which has given us a lot of entertainment. And you'll like these, Dan. We've had a very funny end to the last race.
Okay, why have we had a funny end to the last race? What happened?
So, one driver, it was the one who I can barely say his last name, Jacob.
David Birch.
Or Birch, the other one. Birch ran out of fuel.
Yeah, we
and was pushed over the line.
You can't see the text chat in the stream, but we were sort of organising that in the text chat. We saw Wirch run out of fuel. I'd already returned to pit. Gary Allen was still out, and so was it Bottomley or Ray Birch?
I think it was Birch. Yeah. It was one of the Ferraris. Yeah. And then the other one is Jacob Surson.
Did someone pit?
He pit. He thought he was on the cooldown lap rather than the last lap, and he pit and lost a whole lap.
Oh, nightmare.
That is an absolute nightmare. So that is the end of our second race.
But no, that was great fun. I'm gonna leave you to close off. I'm just gonna say a quick thank you. Why I'm actually here.
Yep.
Not for the interview.
Do that.
Is to sort of thank. We always thank a lot of the drivers and people for being here, but actually the people that really need thanking are all the staff that we have and the admins we have, because we hit 1,000 members today in the Discord, which didn't seem possible when we started. I'm not going to take any of the credit, because if it wasn't for Steve Worrell, none of us would be here. And even though he's not here anymore, because he's a big boy at simracing.gp, it's literally all down to him that we've hit 1,000 members. If it wasn't for him in the first place starting the community, there wouldn't be a target to hit. So a big thank you to him for starting everything for us. But actually, yeah, mainly a big thank you to you two and our broadcast team this season. Hopefully everyone would agree with me in the chat. I can't see the chat, I haven't got enough monitors. That the broadcasts have been a lot better this season because there's been a lot more of you stepping up and doing the broadcast and the commentating. It's good to see Julian coming out of retirement for this evening. You've got to stay every week now, Julian, because I get a win when you're here. So that's it. You've got to stay now. You're not allowed to be sick anymore. That's it. If you're sick, I'll come and get you out of hospital because I need you on a Friday night. But no, a big thank you literally to some of the people behind the scenes that you don't see, sort of Leonard, who's head sort of steward and in charge of that. Jonathan as well, his brother, that's a big part in a lot of the things behind the scenes. Like I said, all the broadcast team. Our favourite Saturday night commentator, Paul Glover, this past 2 weeks, he's been a massive stress sponge for me and letting me just vent things towards him. But no, and yeah, all the drivers as well. At the end of the day, we wouldn't have 1,000 members without 1,000 of you being here. So thank you very much. Our next target is 100 regular viewers on the stream. So share with your friends, share with your parents. They've got nothing else to do. They're all locked down because of all the germs and stuff. I'm not going to say it because it'll take us out of the algorithm. But yeah, thank you very much. I'll leave you two to close off, but thank you everyone, and stay tuned for Christmas stuff. And next Sunday night we'll be announcing season 4 after Suzuka. So we'll have season 4. We'll have our usual stream racer party on next Sunday because it's the end of the season, and we'll also announce what's going to happen in season 4. But thank you very much, boys. I'll leave you two to it. Cheers.
Absolutely. I want to come off what Dan said there to special shout out to the stewards, because I think, as I said earlier in the stream, that is one of the most special parts about ACCSS. It works super well. Remember to stay tuned for tomorrow. We have the silver split. On Sunday we have the pro split and the solo endurance championship. We have Audi TTs, which I still need to go and make the poster for because I have not done that yet. In AC on Tuesday, and then 20th December starts the ACCSS 10 Days of Christmas, where we're going to have a load of events, throwback events to some of the early ACCS events. We're going to be rerunning the Porsche Cup versus Lamba Super Trofeos. We're going to be rerunning the Battle of Japan. We're going to be rerunning the original GT4 event we did at Kyalami. We're going to be rerunning the Battle of Italia. A ton of other events. We have 3 hours of Zolder, our first ever official open team event. And of course, we have the AC Race Night, which myself and Pavel have been creating, which is going to be big fun. It's going to be crazy. We've got some wacky ideas. It's going to be good fun. So tons of events coming up even before season 4 starts. And also, I promise, I am going to make some more highlights so that we don't play the same 3 highlight videos over and over again. I've been very busy. Any last words before we hop out, Julian?
I just want to say thanks for this day. That was really enjoyable. And thanks for having me back again out of retirement, as Dan said.
No problem.
I'm really looking forward to these events that you just mentioned, the 10 Days of Christmas and whatever happens after that.
That's going to be good fun. Lots of other cool events going on SGP as well. Big news, actually, that all of you are hearing here now, and I know a lot of you don't keep up with their Discord. They are fishing. I don't know, they're not going out of beta yet, but it's like the next stage of beta, so their waiting list, which none of you have been on, because if you've come through ACCSS, we've just skipped you right past that, but their waiting list has been opened so that people who aren't yet in any of the communities on SGP can register to join them officially. So we're going to see over the next few weeks a ton more people joining SGP and hopefully hopping in these races. So it's going to be a big time for that platform. IEC stuff's popping off. All's going well. Our stream's doing very well. Thank you for everyone who supported, everyone who subscribed and stuff. Especially, I think right at the beginning we had a load. Shout outs. Always great to have that. Make sure to come back tomorrow to show Lars and Paul some love. And thank you for watching. we will see you next time. I'm going to leave you with some of my highlights that I promise I'll make more of eventually. Thank you, and have a good night.
Across the line then for the start of the championship season. ACC Sprint Series is green. He's in there at the moment. Murphy's going to lose 2 here. Oh, he's held it. He's done really well there. So Page has gone for Murphy then. He's gone on the inside of Abby onto Hanging. So we're looking at Turner then as we go into Vale. Looks at the inside of Prandana, catches Prandana. Big spin. Oh, it's carnage. Oh, it's everyone. That's a whole grid.
Absolute mayhem there.
Absolute whole grid there. Who got through? Who was safe from that? I do not know who was safe from that. Goes to the inside, goes to the dive, hasn't made the corner.
Back to 15th, Castrop just took a big lawnmower to that grass section at the end of Magus and Beckett.
Down Uric in that Porsche. Look for it, he's got a pick on him and he's looked for the move on the inside.
Nice braking there from Broom, but not quite enough. Yang off of the pedal first, and much better acceleration down that straight. Even catching up to Porsche there, who looks like
he's done the Porsche.
2 and 1. Honda is definitely got the overspeed. Dives to the inside.
Oh, that's a bit of a tap. Looked at the inside. He may have come out too early, and like you said, telegraphed it there. He has gone for the dive into Brooklyn. The 2 Porsches trying to gang up on the Lexus then. Urix goes, oh, he's caught it. He's caught the rear end of it. He's got the movement 3 wide. Turn riding then as we go into Stowe. Loose as he comes through. That was Magnus.
Oh, the Aston really pushing it there as well. He was on the grass for the Macca.
Twinkle Bell's chain. Gets the job done on Azza as well.
Bentley into the back of the Aston. Oh, there's been a crash. Doherty went straight into the back of Diggs, and they both just gone off. And he's just closed up, just like he's been doing to everyone else. See if he makes the dive here.
That's the Martin racing thing. You have to look for it. Oh, that's a sausage. That's a big old sausage there for Doherty. And he also picks up a time penalty for the incident with Diggs.
Oh, and talking about the opportunity, Graylish just the opportunity away. Might ruin that there. He's still on the inside, going towards Luffield. Right on that green bit, side by side into Luffield. Oh!
Hughes is looking for it as well.
Well, he didn't go for the dive, but he went wide and actually gets himself taken.
Finding, like I said, it's all the way up the order.
Look at Brenning.
He's gone for it.
Brenning's getting another 1.
He's getting another 2.
Might get the other 2.
Oh. think is probably going to get out in
Pretty
front.
close. He's just about to cross the pit limiter line, so he
so
can
Markov-
just start rolling, but he's real slow.
Oh, this is going to be tight there. Markovski's coming around T1. He's spun. He's spun.